what I wanted versus what I got in my new Italian apartment. When you're looking for an apartment in another country, there's always some things that you have to compromise on. My name's Rose, and I've been living in Italy for about 5 years now. And I just went through the process of looking for a long term apartment rental for the second time. My first apartment was a 4 year lease. The standard for a long term lease in Italy, it's 4+4 or 4+2 sometimes. So, what that means is that the landlord cannot raise the rent for the first 4 years. And unless there's a good reason, they have to renew lease for another 4 years at the same rate. A long-term lease is really good for the tenant. If you're planning to stay in Italy long term, that's the best kind of situation to have if you're renting. I live in Turin, and the reason I had to leave my apartment was because the owner of the apartment was moving in. She gave me 6 months notice, which is legally what they require. And I had so much trouble finding a place that it took me almost a year to find an apartment. I really wanted certain things in my place. I knew that I also had a certain budget to stay under. So overall, I'm very happy with my place. And I want to show you some of the things that were on my list for what I wanted and what I ended up getting in the end. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the kitchen. You know what always surprises me when I look at Italian apartments, because most Italians really love to cook, but sometimes the kitchen is way smaller than you would think would be comfortable for people who cook a lot. And sometimes the kitchen space is larger and more open, but it's also combined with the living space. In a lot of smaller apartments, especially, so I was looking at bilocales mostly, and what that means is 2 room apartments. The rooms are counted as a bedroom space and a living space. And often the kitchen is combined with the living space. So as you can see here, the couch is basically in the kitchen. And then the other room is the bedroom, and I guess, workspace and everything else. I love cooking, but I don't want to stare at my dirty dishes after I eat. So I really didn't want that the combined living room and kitchen space. What I found is that in a bilocale, when the kitchen is separate from the living space, it's really, really small. It's almost like just a kitchenette off to the side. I really did want a separate kitchen space, and I did get it. But as you can see, the living space is a very nice size, bigger than I could have imagined. And it is separate from the kitchen, but the kitchen is a lot smaller than I wanted. The kitchen really isn't big enough for all of my appliances and bits and things that I use to cook. So I ordered this credenza slash workspace right away to put my toaster oven and my coffee maker, and my instant pot is in here, so cabinet space. Most of the rentals in Turin that I did see were furnished, probably because students are constantly rotating in and out of town, so people just keep their apartments furnished to easily rent them for a year or 2 years to students. I didn't necessarily want a furnished apartment. I was just looking at everything available in my budget. For me, I was very particular in the type of furniture I would want in an apartment, because if it's fully furnished, everything comes as is. And for the most part, you see two different styles of furnished apartments. There were some that were really nicely renovated, so everything was fairly new. There's no real character to it, no personality to it. And then there's the other type of furnished apartment that is stuffed with old furniture that they inherited from their grandma, and so they just put it in their rental apartment. But the problem with unfurnished apartments, it can be really expensive, especially because unfurnished often means there's no kitchen, there's no appliances, there's no cabinet. Sometimes the light fixtures are even missing. I didn't have the budget to really furnish an entire place, but I still looked at unfurnished apartments because I was desperate that if worse came to worse, I could figure something out. One thing about apartments in Italy is that the rooms are pretty much just rooms. It's really rare to have a walk-in closet or any sort of built-in storage. I did want a partially furnished apartment. I was hoping to have some sort of built-in storage that I could use and not have to buy a wardrobe. So the apartment that I got, it was completely unfurnished. It did have a partial kitchen, basically the kitchen sink. So one thing that I was really surprised about that kind of helped sell me on this apartment was this little bonus room off of the living room. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a pantry, but I immediately thought it would be perfect as a walk-in closet. I set it up really quick with a few rolling clothes hangers. And of course, my cat Zoe already scoped out her favorite napping spot. It has very high ceilings, so I'm going to also add some shelves and more storage in there. It is weird that the closet is in my living room and not in the bedroom, but I don't know. I think it's worth it. I really like having a walk-in closet. The third thing I was really hoping for, but I felt like it was another long shot, was to have a bathtub in my new bathroom. For Italian apartments, and I think Europe in general, the bathrooms tend to be really small. It's rare to have a bathtub, especially in a smaller bilocale in a two-room apartment. In my first apartment, I had a really tiny shower space and it was fine, but that was one thing that I was always homesick for when I was in the US. I always had a bathtub, and it's not like I always need a bath every night, but it's just nice to have the option and have when you do need it. There's something about that little luxury of just taking a bath that I miss. So I wanted a bathtub. What I got, I was so excited. I saw the bathtub. What I didn't realize was it was just a bathtub. There was no like shower head attachment. There was no curtain. It's three-sided. So you can't just hang a tension rod. You really need to install a shower curtain. I didn't even know if they sold U-shaped shower curtain. As much as I like the bathtub, I didn't want to be forced to take a bath every day. So eventually I did get someone in here to install the shower curtain, and I think it looks really great. But those first few months were kind of crazy. Another thing I don't like about the bathtub is the water heater is for some reason installed right above the bathtub. I just get a little worried sometimes. Like, why is it right there above my head when I'm showering? I'm not sure. The last thing that really sold me on this apartment, I really wanted some outdoor space for a few reasons. When I moved here, I was living in Los Angeles and I had a very, very tiny studio apartment, and it was just me and my cat, and we had no balcony or anything, any private outdoor space. When I did find my first apartment in Italy, I was really happy that it had a little balcony that my cat could go out and she could experience the outside while still being safe. And I also liked it too. I liked sitting out there. I had a cute little setup, as you can see in there, and it wasn't ideal, but it was my little space and I loved it. When I was looking for apartments, so I was really surprised to see 90% of the apartments that I saw had balconies. The only ones that didn't were the few like attic apartments that I saw and ground floor apartments, which also I didn't want to be on the ground floor anyway. I did really want an outdoor space to be a priority. And it didn't have to be large. It was just, any sort of outdoor space would be fine. And what I got was more than I could have dreamed of. I got two balconies. This one is more like a terrace. It's huge and gets so much sunlight. Also super quiet and tranquil. It's really my favorite place in the apartment. Overall, I think I got maybe 80% of what I wanted. This is not an exact science. The apartment it's not close to the center of Turin at all. It's further than any apartment that I'd looked at, but it's close to a metro line, so I'm able to get to the city pretty easily. That is one thing I compromised on because I really do like to be in the center of the city, close to things. But I think the trade off is really good because I got more space than I could have ever wanted. I'm going to have a lot of fun decorating the space because it's unfurnished. It was actually also unpainted and it was clean, but there's still a lot of things sticking out of the walls from the previous tenant. There's like random stickers everywhere. There's a lot of things that need to be done, but the trade off is the rent is way lower than I thought I would be paying. It's actually lower than my last apartment, which is crazy. I was very happy with the size of the place for the price of the rent. I'll be sharing more about the progress I'm making on decorating my place. I like to have a mix of more sort of vintage and modern looks in my apartment. So I'm really excited to hit the thrift stores and the antique markets and to look for furniture, decor, artwork, maybe try to find some art from some local artists. This is the first time I feel like I have a place that I want to put some time and money into making it feel like home. It's just the first place I've had in a while that doesn't feel like a temporary situation. So if you like this video, you can subscribe and I'll be posting more about my first foray into home decorating in Italy and doing some DIY projects probably. And I also share videos about the process of moving abroad and life in Italy in general. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.